Hi, I'm Bo Huffman from the Hastings and Kearney GNCs. We're here to help you live well each and every day. So whether you're looking for a good quality multiple vitamin for the family, a fish oil for your overall health and wellness needs, to sports nutrition, weight loss, whatever your goal, we're here to help you live well each and every day.
Hey guys, welcome to the Sports Hub, brought to you by GNC. A second round playoff edition, but we had a ton of good first round action, and it starts with Kearney High. Kearney High goes from a team that's 1-4 to a team last Friday night that had a lead against number 1 seed Millard West. Just a crazy turn of events for Kearney High.
Yeah, last week I said Kearney High would have to play their best game of their season to keep it close against Millard West, and that's almost what they did. Like you said, they were leading in the third quarter. Eventually, Millard West team speed kind of overwhelmed the Bearcats, but there's nothing to be ashamed of. Like you said, this is a 1-4 team, and they really turned their season around. You know, there may have been some questions whether they turned their season around or the schedule got easier, but they definitely proved it on Friday that this was a much improved team. You know, they were competing against the best team in the state. There wasn't any of the other top 4 teams that had a close game in the first round. Kearney was the only Class A team that gave the top teams a test in that first round game. So really just a good close to the season despite a loss.
And a lot of credit goes to Brandon Kuhl, of course, the Kearney High coach, who got a lot of credit for the way that this Bearcat team was able to finish the season 5-5 and really play its best ball at the end of the season.
And they're going to have some pieces to work with next year with Jacob White, Peyton Pocock, both juniors. Same with Brian Arp, the anchor in the defense. They're going to have some pieces to work with next year.
Definitely plenty of talent coming back for the Bearcats next year. And the 7th-seeded Kearney Catholic Stars will take on the defending C1 runner-ups in Boone Central, Newman Grove. Their Stars are going to have to make the trip all the way up to Albion to take on a team that is undefeated right now and playing really, really well. The Stars were able to kind of get back on track last week. Got a big 21-0 shutout win in that first-round game against Ord. And that's a game that they needed to have. They needed to get some of that defensive swagger back, I think. This team kind of lost it a little bit maybe at the end of the season. Tough 3 games to end their schedule, but pitching a shutout in that first-round playoff game, I think that was really important. Got a defensive touchdown off a crazy play with Jack Graham. Blake Holtmeyer recovered the fumble, returned it the rest of the way. And the Stars really did some good things last week. They weren't necessarily able to get the ground game going and maybe that aerial attack the way that they wanted to, but they were still able to manufacture points. And I think they were able to keep that Ord offense off the field. That was an important thing. And they needed a game like that to get their confidence back up. If you're going to beat one of the best teams in the state, you have to have confidence. You have to have a belief that if and when you get a lead in that game that you can sustain it. And I think that's what the Stars got with that game last week. It's going to be a really interesting test to see the way that Kearney Catholic, is able to handle their best test of the season. This is no slouch in the second round. This is a very tough draw. Wyatt Mazer, the Boone Central Newman Grove quarterback, was out last week with a hamstring injury. We don't know if he's going to be active for this game. If he's not, that team just still has such a good ground game that it's going to be a tough matchup for Kearney Catholic no matter what. I think the most important thing, 3 things for Kearney Catholic that they need to be able to do. They need to finish their drives with touchdowns. They need to be able to limit those penalties. They had 8 penalties for 90 yards in the first half last week. That's not very good. And they need to establish that balance. They need to get John Masker going, get some of those receivers, Harrison Pierce, Bryce James, Blake Holtmeyer, of course, involved. And then, of course, Thomas Connolly's got to be able to finish those drives off in the red zone. So Stars definitely have a big test in this second-round game, but, they believe, and I think that's an important thing for them right now. And by now, of course, you know about Ron Kellogg's incredible Hail Mary heave to Jordan Westerkamp that possibly saved Nebraska's season. They get a 27-24 win over Northwestern, and now this team could potentially have some big-time momentum going into that game at the Big House. They're going to take on the Michigan Wolverines, who have problems of their own right now. Do you think this game could be a big push forward, or is this just going to mask some problems?
That is the question. Is this a shift, or like you said, masking problems? I would lean toward the latter, but we'll see in the second half of the season.
Should be an interesting one. Bo, last week, our friend at GNC, did not have the Huskers winning this game, but I think he will definitely take a Husker win over being right. Bo has another chance at redemption this week. He has our GNC Muscleman pick of the week.
Hey, it's Bo here at GNC from Hastings and Kearney. We're here to talk about our score for the Husker game. I was a little bit off in last week's post. Didn't realize that Northwestern was coming in quite as depleted as what they were, although it was great to get a great win. So this week, hopefully we're going to say that Nebraska is going to launch them into the next stratosphere, and maybe we're going to actually go up to the big house and get a huge big win while we're there. I'm going to pick Nebraska in a close one, 24-21. Really hope that our defense does solidify a little bit and the offense can put it together a little bit better as well. So come see us. We're doing new buy one get one half price if you say you saw us on here. So come on in and we'll get you taken care of so you can live well every day. And let's go Huskers.
Nathan, we had the playoffs underway last week. Now we have round 2. It'll kick off with a full slate of games on Wednesday. We'll start with C1 with number 1 Cozad. They're going to take on a tough Pierce team. Cozad got a big 63-14 win against Minden. Game that Jake Paulson only had to touch the ball 7 times for the Haymakers, put up 63 points. So this is a team that's rolling offensively right now. Didn't have any sort of a first-round letdown or anything close to that. But they're going to take on a really good Pierce team. They're going to take on a team that many people feel can potentially hang with some of those big dogs. Pierce hasn't had the greatest strength of schedule, but they're a team that does have 7 wins coming into this one, so it'll be an interesting test for Cozad to see the way that they can handle that second round pressure, that increased pressure, because this team hasn't necessarily been there before. So they're going to look to, of course, rely on Paulson. He'll get a more increased workload this week. And I think kind of 2 of the X factors for this team, I really think that Colin Wedovic and Connor Young are 2 guys that can potentially push the Haymakers over the hump if teams are able to focus in on Paulson and limit what he's able to do. So Haymakers going to look to get into that 3rd round.
We've got a good 4-5 seed clash in Class C1 with probably 2 of the best defenses in this class.
Yeah.
Swedes are giving up 13 points per game, Broken Bow even better, allowing just 8 points per game. Last time these teams clashed, it was a defensive battle. Gothenburg had a field goal in the 4th quarter, and that was the only points of the game.
Wow.
They won 3-0, and that was early in the season. Last week, Broken Bow looked like it was cruising against Grand Island Central Catholic. But GICC scored twice at the end of the 3rd quarter, really kind of tested the resolve of the Indians. And they came back. They had a really long drive that milked away a lot of the clock in the 4th quarter. They kind of just put the game away. It really tested their resolve in a first-round playoff game. May set them up well against Gothenburg. If you're a fan of smash mouth, hard-nosed defense, pounded in the ground.
We're going to see a lot of that.
You're going to want to be in Gothenburg on Wednesday, and we're going to see which team beats each other up more. It should be an exciting game if you like that kind of football.
Points at a premium definitely could be a 1-touchdown game, could be the difference.
For sure. I expect it close. I expect it low scoring.
And in D1, number 1 Overton is going to look to continue rolling. They got a big 65-14 win in their first round game last week. And they're going to be taking on number 8 Palmer squad that really didn't play like a number 8 seed. They got a huge monster win in the first round. They won 63-14. That's an 8-9 matchup. That's usually your coin flip. Palmer did not play a team like that. They really blew Sutherland out of the water. But Palmer's going to have a tough task to be able to stop Hayden Cahoy, to stop Joel Schaefer. These guys have not been stopped all year, even by the best of Elm Creek and the best that D1 has to offer. So if Palmer wants to be able to hang around with a team as good as Overton, they're going to need to somehow shut down that running game, because really this Overton team is that good. I'd be surprised to see if there's anybody able to shut them down in the early rounds.
Just the way the scores, though, it looks like maybe a little bit of a trap game.
Could potentially be. I think every game, it's fair to call it a trap game for Overton and Elm Creek, though, because with that matchup, if they potentially could get there for a semifinal matchup, I mean, that's what everybody's looking at. Those 2 schools, obviously huge rivals, such close proximity. So I think any game can be treated really as a trap game leading up to that point. So Overton going to look to get another win, going to look to get into the quarterfinals. And the number 2 seed in the D1 bracket, Elm Creek, is going to get they're going to get Burwell at home. They're going to get to take on a team that they beat in the second round, 42-40 last year. So this is a big rematch for Burwell. I think they have a lot of animosity towards Elm Creek with ending that season. It's very tough to end your season in such a close game in the playoffs. So definitely going to be an amped up Burwell squad coming into Elm Creek, and Elm Creek is going to look to continue what it's been doing all year. They have such a good variety, I think, on the ground that they're able to establish. Obviously, we talk about it every week with Hayden Geis, Christian Best, Nick Crowley. This is a good team, a team that has been able to run against pretty much everybody that it's seen. So Elm Creek, we just talked about with Overton, trap game. Could be a potential trap game considering what Burwell has going in this one. And Burwell's rolling right now. I mean, they got a 7-game winning streak. They got a big 39-point first-round win. This isn't exactly a walkthrough game. This is not going to be much like what their first-round game was last week.
It's fun. First round games eliminate a lot of the so-so teams. You're looking at the records of these second round teams: 8-1, 7-2. These are good teams that everyone's playing.
Yeah, Elm Creek has rushed for over 300 yards in 8 of their games this season. If they do that again on Wednesday, it's going to be very tough for Burwell to hang around. So should be another good one.
And in our only Hub Territory game of the week, we've got Amherst and Loomis, 2 area teams playing each other at This game's at Loomis. Amherst in the first round jumped all over Hitchcock County. It kind of showed off their high-flying offense. They scored 52 points in the first half. This is a team led by Trey Taubenheim, Devin Dibburn, Mason Klingelhofer. They just have weapons all over, except for one loss in the regular season. This team's just been trucking through the 2013 season. Now, Loomis, meanwhile, they're the 4 seed, but they struggled a little bit against Bertrand. They were trailing 14-0 before coming back. Eventually, they won 56-28, but we're losing to start that game. Jack Otting-Crandall scored 4 touchdowns for Loomis last week. Jack and Andrew Otting-Crandall really lead this team offensively. In week 1, Amherst and Loomis played each other. Amherst won that game, but the Otting-Crandalls, this was their first game for Loomis, so it's kind of a warm-up in week 1, maybe a much improved Loomis team throughout the season. I would expect this to be a close game between 2 good Hub Territory teams.
And if Amherst can get past this round, we were talking about earlier, Amherst kind of has a nice little road here to potentially be an upset team that's capable of getting to the semifinals and whatnot, because they would be able to get a 3rd-round game against Wallace at home. And I think that's a really important team for a team that could have been a 1 or a 2 seed if not for that regular season finale loss.
Yeah, Amherst is easily one of the best Class 2 teams for sure.
Yeah, should be a good one. Definitely love that 4-5 matchup. We got another one, Shelton and Medicine Valley. Shelton barely escaped. 2-point win. You kind of called that given the injuries that Shelton has. They barely got past a Sandhill Stedford team that came ready to play, and Shelton going to look to have a better performance this week.
Yeah, it took they scored a touchdown in the last 3 minutes of that game to pull out the 34-32 win. It may have been a tough matchup. The way Sandhill Stedford offense runs, just kind of a unique system that they have, could be a tough matchup for any team. But for Shelton, leading rusher David Jimenez just had 28, 29 yards on the ground. Not exactly the greatest game for him.
They need more out of him.
They'll need to get more out of him, and they're going to be facing a 10 seed in Medicine Valley that beat up, a banged up Elwood team. They won 50-28. Medicine Valley's a high flying team too. They've got quarterback Chase Barthel. This team just scores a lot of points. So the way Shelton is right now, not exactly the healthiest team, facing a Medicine Valley team that puts up a lot of points. I would expect a high scoring game and probably another close game. Shelton will need to come up with something to pull out a win, even though they're the number 2 seed in the second round.
Point is, this is not your typical 2-10 matchup. I think we can agree on that.
Yeah, just the way where Shelton is and Medicine Valley as well, this could be a close game.
We got good matchups all over the place. Wednesday games, kind of weird for us to be covering Wednesday games. I said that last week about Thursday games, but teams get a shorter week. It's going to be interesting to see how these teams prepare. Big tests all over the Hub Territory. Going to be good one. Going to be good slate of games as always. So make sure you follow our Sports Hub blog. That's at Sports Hub blog. We're going to try and tweet out all the scores that we can. We try and tweet out all those updates that we can during the playoff games. And obviously follow our accounts at CJ O'Gara, at NM Hart. So for Conor O'Gara, Nathan Hart, this has been the Sports Hub. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next week.